But Krishna is, although he's 3 months old, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's not 3 months old. It's a Leela. To allow Raso Vai Saha, it means he is Rasa. That's a nice thing to be. He is Rasa. Akila Murti. Akila Rasa Murti. Akila Rasamrita Murti. This is Rupa Goswami's way of describing. He's the totality of all rasa. And he appears to reciprocate loving dealings with his eternal associates. So he does different things at different times in different ways to stimulate their love in different ways at different times, in different circumstances. And that's what he does. He stimulates love. And then for those of us that aren't eternal associates, just hearing those exchanges have an impact, have a potency. And the potency is, we discussed this yesterday. This is the review part. It has the potency to cleanse and awaken. Coverings become cleansed. Forgetfulness, that 5 kinds of coverings of the living entity, just as the Taittiriya Upanishad describes. And the awakening of original consciousness. And the original consciousness is loving service. Unfettered by any kind of matter, any modes of material nature, or any subtle or gross covering. Original consciousness becomes stimulated and awakened. That is, we can experience rasa to the degree that we have purification. And supposing we don't have much purification, we'll get lots of purification just by hearing. We discussed this yesterday. Attachment for the object of love is what is the outcome. To get attachment to Krishna, just by hearing about Krishna, it's easy because he's all attractive. And now he does what he does. It's like, besides fascinating, it's filled with spiritual potency. We may be aware, we may be not so aware. It doesn't matter. This filled with spiritual potency. So just what I'm mentioning, as we discussed yesterday, just by sitting here together like this, it's a spiritual event for the soul, a significant spiritual event. And we go on hearing and go on hearing and go on hearing, and it becomes more than an event. It becomes our life, a life of attraction to, and eventually attachment to Krishna. Attachment to Krishna to the degree where you can be in the middle of a hurricane or the most troubling of circumstances of life, and you remain peaceful. The circumstance doesn't impact spiritual reality. The spiritual reality supersedes the circumstances of material life, the dualities, the happiness as well as the distress, or the distress as well as the happiness. It pales, it becomes not so significant. And I remember one other thing that we touched on yesterday, because apparently it got circulated. I mentioned the state of consciousness of an elevated person like our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. He was beyond our conception. He was in all circumstances of all the complexities that he was dealing with. He was in the stage of Bhava Bhakti, Prema Bhakti. He wasn't in sadhana stage of bhakti. It's hard to picture that because we're in the sadhana stage of bhakti, but he was beyond the sadhana stage of bhakti. He was experiencing transcendental ecstasy at all times. We gave some examples of normally, in circumstances when Prabhupada would exhibit some transcendental ecstasy, it was rare. In fact, this one occasion that I mentioned yesterday, when he was in Mayapur and there are hundreds of us and seated at his feet, and he's giving the morning Bhagavatam class and ideal setting in Sridham Mayapur. And towards about 34 minutes into the class, he lost external consciousness and went into a state of trance right in front of everybody. And then things happened we kind of discussed yesterday. He went to his room. Silent, just got up from the Vyasa-san, went to his room. Later there was discussion, and Prabhupada was apologetic. He said, I don't normally do that. It's true, he normally didn't do that. But on occasion he did that. And it gave us some insight into the consciousness that he was always in. And that's the direction that we're headed just by sadhana. It gives us a picture where, you put your destination in your GPS and then you know how to get there. If you don't put the destination in your GPS, what happens? It tells you where you are, but it doesn't tell you how to get to where you're going because you don't know where you're going because you didn't put it in the GPS yet. So it's good to know where we're going so you can get there if you have a good GPS. And the practice, sadhana bhakti practice, is given in authorized sources, tells you what the destination is, and then there are personalities that exhibit it. So this is one of those pastimes, the very first pastime of child Krishna, 3 months old, narrated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6. Putana enters Vrindavan is the title of the chapter. So here's verse number 4. Once upon a time, Putana, Rakshasi, who could move according to her desire and was wandering in outer space. K means space. Chari means she moved around in space. Converted herself by mystic power into a very beautiful woman, Yoshitva, and thus entered Gokula, the abode of Nanda Maharaj. There she is. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, to enact the pastime of killing Putana, Krishna's Leela Shakti inspired Putana to enter Gokula as if invited by death to be killed. So she was going to be killed. She was going as a killer, but she was killed. With this intention, the verse is spoken. One evening, Putana entered Gokula by flying through the sky. Utpatya. By mystic power, Putana took on the form of a beautiful woman. So there's what she looked like on the left, and she transformed herself into the other one. All the Vrajavasis were so much enamored by Putana's beauty that they gave her access to all the houses in town. Though the Lord's illusory energy has no desire, no independent desire, by the will of the Lord, Putana displayed her illusions just like a magician to bewilder the eternal devotees of Vraja and to unfold the transcendental pastimes of Krishna. So Krishna's pleasures being enacted through the medium even of Putana. Jiva Goswami's comment, she went at night, according to Parashara and Vaishampayana, flying in the sky. So Parashara is the author of Vishnu Purana. So it's not, rather than saying this is what's stated in Vishnu Purana, he says it's according to Parashara. And the Bhagavatam is Vaishampayana Vyas, flying in the sky. Because she was of ferocious demeanor, she transformed herself into a beautiful woman that gave her access to the homes. Now, this is a celebrated pastime, so many acharyas speak on it. And one of the devotees, many of you may know, Hari Parshad Prabhu. Hari Parshad Prabhu he likes Bhagavatam, and he likes hearing from acharyas from other sampradayas. And here's Sri Vallabhacharya's commentary on this pastime. Krishna's birth was in the most auspicious constellation named Rohini. The constellation, it was his mother's name, but it's also the constellation of star under which he was born. Krishna did not want Mother Rohini to feel that I did not take birth from your womb, because Balaram took birth from her womb. For this reason, Krishna chose Rohini as the nakshatra. So, at least both mothers, that's Yashoda and Rohini, will feel that Krishna has some direct connection with them. While Krishna was born during the auspicious constellation of Rohini, Putana has selected a very specific day and time for killing the child in a very calculated manner. The 6th day from Rohini Nakshatra was the inauspicious Nakshatra, Aslesha. In the Jyoti Shastras, Aslesha is considered as Gandha Mula Nakshatra, or one of the inauspicious nakshatras. Astrologically, it is Mrityu Yoga. Mrityu Yoga means the planetary combination on that day results in death. The specific time of day, Visha Gatika, is a particular time of the day, having a duration of 24 minutes, which is associated with poison and death. Within these 24 minutes, everything happened. Now, there's some detailed analysis of Putana's program. Then someone might ask, look, Gokula is the spiritual world. And it's the spiritual world. It's because Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtan, we know that the chanting of the holy name is imported from the Goloka. But the Vrindavan of the spiritual world is the expansion of Goloka of the spiritual world. Non-different. One devotee today told me they're going to Vrindavan very soon. And that you're going to Krishna's abode. So like, wow. So unfortunately, when we enter Krishna's abode, it's described by our acharyas that it's like entering the surface, like sometimes there's a surface of oil over water, and you see the water, but you don't see the water, you see the oil. So when we enter Vrindavan, it's like the oil on top of the water, but just beneath the oil, that's the spiritual abode. So the question is sometimes raised, wait a minute, how is Putana this bad person? How was she able to enter the spiritual abode? She doesn't have a credential. How could she go to Goloka? And it's a pastime. In order to create the pastime of Putana coming to Vraja, Yoga Maya spread her illusion. We discussed this yesterday. Yoga Maya and Vrinda Devi, or the Leela Shakti of the personality of Godhead, assist in his pastimes. They coordinate everything. So Yoga Maya made this arrangement. By the influence of Maya, Putana did not divert her gaze, but, overcoming all people, stared only at the child in Nanda's house. She was a yogi, right? Jiva Goswami's commentary. Like an ember covered by ashes, no one could see the powers within Krishna, since Yogamaya made him appear like an ordinary child, though he could at once manifest powers like the blazing fire. It's a pastime. So Krishna appeared covered like fire or ember covered by ashes. But within this, he's the personality of Godhead, and by Yogamaya's arrangement, Putana could enter. Again, elsewhere in other shastras, Garga Samhita describes to ask about Vasudev's welfare. This is going back to the previous portion of the Leela, what we heard yesterday evening. Nanda Maharaj, being the king of the cowherds, had gone to the capital, Mathura, to pay his taxes, because he's in charge of the land, but the landholder is in Mathura. So he went to Mathura to pay his taxes. And while he was there, he met with Vasudeva, his dear friend, asking about his welfare and describing about he wanted to let Vasudeva know about the big festival they had, Krishna Janmashtami, in Vrindavan. During this time, so while Nanda is in Mathura, Putana's off in Vrindavan doing her nefarious business, child-killing business, sent by Kamsa, traveling here, traveling there, making a rumbling sound, searching for the eighth-born child of Devaki. Coming to Gokula, which was filled with many gopas and gopis, the demoness assumed the form of a splendid 16-year-old girl. Capable of assuming any form, Putana came to Nanda's capital disguised as the most beautiful woman in the three worlds. The villagers became attracted and bewildered by seeing such an exceptional, beautiful, charming woman. In this way, Putana astonished the minds of everyone with her superbly enchanting form. This references to Nanda Vrindavan Shambhu. So what I'm sparing you the time to read all these literatures, I'm kind of assembling them in kind of like a collage of different scriptural references describing this picture. Putana entered the residential quarters of Nanda Maharaj without permission. Dressing herself like a beautiful woman, she entered the house of Mother Yashoda, like a thief. Executing her nefarious plan, that shameless woman, Putana, her heart filled with cruelty and ignorance, courageously entered their house. She's a very clever, bold, magician-like lady. So here's a description of her beauty. Her hips were full, her breasts were large and firm, seeming to overburden her slim waist, and she was dressed very nicely. Her hair, adorned with a garland of mallika flowers, was scattered about her beautiful face. Her earrings were brilliant, and as she smiled very attractively, glancing upon everyone, her beauty drew the attention of all the inhabitants of Braja, especially the men. When the gopis saw her, gopis means just they're ladies, because there's a cowherd village, the men are the gopas and the ladies are the gopis. When the gopis saw her, They thought that the beautiful goddess of fortune holding a lotus flower in her hand had come to see her husband, Krishna. That's the verse in the Bhagavatam. Commentary. It's a nice painting. They're busy with little 3-month-old Krishna in the maternity room. Seeing that beautiful woman with marks of lotus on her hands, the gopis concluded that she was the embodiment of all wealth and jewels. That means Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. She must have come to see her husband Narayana, the Ishtadev of Nanda Maharaj. Putana had broad waist and breast contrasted to her thin waist. She was attractive. She was so attractive that the Brajavasis let her enter the inner chambers of their houses without obstruction. I hope you like hearing this commentary because it makes it diverse and colorful. Jiva Goswami. Jasmines bound together were tied in her hair, making her very beautiful. Her face was decorated with locks of hair, shining with the effulgence of her swinging earrings. She was acting attractively. The gopis thought she was the wealth of the universe, Shriyam, since she held lotuses in her hands. So there's some of the gopis receiving her. Sanatana Goswami comments, why would she come? She seemed to be looking for her husband. It was not actually so, or the goddess Lakshmi had come to see the protector of the gopis, since Krishna was the son of Nanda. Or the gopis thought that the woman was Lakshmi coming from her planet to see Narayana. This appearance was possible because of her astonishing beauty and skillful dress. But she has another idea. The outside is one thing, and the inside is something else. This is more details of how she was dressed. Everyone wondered about the identity of Putana. Is she the presiding demigoddess of Vrindavan? Is she the goddess of fortune? Is she a creeper of lightning appearing without a cloud? Is she this is poetry. Is she a friend of the kumkum flowers blossoming under the moon? The innocent, cowherd women thought that she was a goddess of fortune appearing in Vrindavan with a lotus flower in her hand, etc. So they're pondering, who is this brilliantly beautiful lady? Ananda Vrindavan Champu expresses, seeing the extraordinary elegance of Putana, the Brajavasis openly mocked the famous society girls of heaven, saying, "Oh, Urvashi, you are the best of heavenly damsels, but the presence of Putana, you are no more than a beggar. Oh, Ambushe, there is no use maintaining the high bamboos of your pride any longer, for it has now been crushed. Oh, Rambe, very soon you'll become the consort of a frog," and so forth. Different ways of appreciating her beauty. No Gopa or Gopi stopped Putana, whose beauty seemed to eclipse the demigoddesses, Sachi, Saraswati, Lakshmi, Rambha, and Rati. One of my heroes in Krishna consciousness is Jiva Goswami. It's nice to have a hero. And then because when you have a hero, you like to hear from them and about them. And one of the features of Jiva Goswami is he wrote not just one commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, like he wrote one commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam that was like Prabhupada did, verse by verse. It's called Krama Samdarbha. Krama means step by step, from beginning to the end of Srimad Bhagavatam. Every verse, most verses, commentary. That's one of his commentaries. Then another he wrote, Jiva Goswami, was a 6-part describing the topics of the Bhagavatam. They're called the Sandarbhas. Bhagavat Sandarbha, Bhakti Sandarbha, Krishna Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha, different aspects of Krishna, Tattva Sandarbha. And it's mega, it's really massive and very, very comprehensive, very, very authoritative. That's one of his commentaries on the Bhagavatam. And explicitly, it's a commentary on the Bhagavatam. And then another is this one, Gopal Champu. Gopal Champu has 2 parts, Krishna in Vrindavan, Krishna out of Vrindavan. He wrote another commentary. He was such a scholarly younger member of the 6 Goswamis that Sanatana Goswami, the eldest, requested one of the youngest, Jiva, you're super. Can you review my commentary on the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam and see if it needs any modification? Editing. It was like his editor. And so he not only did that service, but he made a commentary on his commentary. Vaishnava Toshani Tika, commentary on the 10th canto Bhagavatam. He's a lover of Srimad Bhagavatam. So you have a hero like Jiva Goswami and you become a lover of Srimad Bhagavatam. And one of those is this Gopal Champu. So it's describing in chapter 5, no, the Bhagavatam is chapter 6 of canto 10. But Gopal Champu, it's chapter 5, killing of Putana. As a snake puts a mongoose in its lap thinking it is a mouse. Because mongooses may look like a little rodent, but they eat snakes. Mongooses eat snakes. So she put Krishna in her lap, like a snake putting a mongoose in his lap. Putana fearlessly put Krishna on her lap, thinking of easily killing him, because he's just a 3-month baby and I'm a baby killer. So the way that the Gopal Champu is structured is there's a person speaking and a person asking questions, and they're brothers, Snigdhakanta and Madhukanta. So Madhukanta is the narrator and Snigdhakanta is the one asking questions. Oh, elder brother, why did the 2 mothers, that's Rohini and Yashoda, why did the 2 mothers not prevent this unknown woman and not consider her identity? Madhukanta replies, it was previously said that Yogamaya was the cause, and Putana used a tricky means to execute her task. When Putana entered the village, she took a form like a pot ornamented with gold bells, hiding her nature as a snake. Her breasts were covered with tears and flowed with milk. In this way, she bewildered the 2 women. So there's Mother Yashoda on the right, holding child Krishna, and that's Rohini facing one another. And there's nicely dressed Putana. With choked voice, Putana said, oh, Yashoda, You have become very hard because of many duties. Therefore, Rohini, with steady affection for your son, has been a great benefit. Keeping the tender child on the bed, you must carry out many duties, and you do not pay full attention to the child. One keeps the life air in the heart. What to speak of keeping this child dearer than life air in the heart? Your hearts are hard, like those of demons. As Lakshmi, by my extraordinary powers, I heard about this son and have come immediately. Just as the jasmine becomes joyful in spring, in the same way my eyes become joyful upon seeing this child. My breasts, spreading auspiciousness everywhere, are flowing with nectar. If the child drinks the nectar, he will attain a perfect body. I will become his nurse and give him happiness. That's your program. Back to Srimad Bhagavatam. While searching for small children, Putana, whose business was to kill them, entered the house of Nanda Maharaj unobstructed, being sent by the superior potency of the Lord. Now notice the blue letters, Yadrich Chaya. You see that in the verse? It's a very enigmatic term. Yadrich Chaya is often translated as somehow or other, meaning there's no logical explanation, or even more specifically, there's no material explanation, or more specifically, there's a spiritual cause, an unseen, somehow or other spiritual cause. So just being direct, our acharyas have said it's Yogamaya, the unseen influence of Yogamaya. And Yogamaya only does what Krishna wants. And she does it very expertly. She's superlative. She's Krishna's direct spiritual potency. So she does it very, very expertly. So Yadrich Shaya, having been sent by the superior potency of the Lord, without asking anyone's permission, she entered Nanda Maharaj's room, where she saw the child sleeping in the bed. His unlimited power covered like a powerful fire covered by ashes. She could understand that this child was not ordinary, but was meant to kill all demons. So intuitively, although she's a demon, here's a photograph of fire covered by ashes. And there's, on the right side, there's Putana coming to approach little Krishna. And Nanda Vrindavan Champu writes, Putana saw baby Krishna as a spark of a powerful fire, capable of burning the sum total of all misfortune to ashes. That boy shone like the transcendental flame of a lamp, competent of subduing all enemies produced by the dense darkness of night. So there's nice paintings of little baby Krishna. He was just like another Agastya Rishi who could easily swallow the deadly poison, ocean of poison represented by material existence. Baby Krishna lay on a bed as white as the rays of the full moon, or the foam produced from the churning of the ocean of milk. The baby looked like a great emerald sprouting from a field of powdered camphor. Poetic images are very attractive. So we're going to go through a few of the commentaries to get the picture. This is Jiva Goswami's commentary. She searched out babies in Gokula without having to make effort. There's the Yadrishchaya word again. The Yadrishchaya word is used in several places in the Bhagavatam, and it's one of the ways that's described how bhakti enters. So how bhakti enters is Yadrishchaya, means there's no material cause. There's no material cause that can bring a bhakti about. There's no material cause that can stop bhakti from happening. It's causeless. Ahaitaki apratiyata. Hetu. You know the verse from the Bhagavatam. Hetu means cause. There's cause and there's effect. So the appearance of bhakti is ahetu. There's no material cause. There's nothing materially you can do to bring bhakti about. There's nothing materially that one might do that can block bhakti. Nothing. Because it's Yadrishchaya. It's acting or powered by a different potency than material potency. It's not dependent upon material potency. It's not checked by material potency. Nothing. So her entrance into Gokula was like that, because it's all the arrangement of Yogamaya. She was inspired by the Leela Shakti. We discussed a little bit yesterday, for those that weren't with us yesterday. What's the sameness and difference between Yogamaya and Leela Shakti? We didn't threadbare discuss it, we touched on it. Purnamasi is Yogamaya. She's the queen. And the queen has some chief attendants. And so Yogamaya will sometimes summon one of her chief assistants, Leela Shakti, Vrinda Devi. Yes, Purnamasi, some service? Yes, such and such. I'm right, I'll take care of it. No worries. So Leela Shakti, Leela is a separate Shakti, but it's under the direction of the Yogamaya potency. And both the Yogamaya potency and Leela Shakti are Krishna's Shaktis. They're just assisting in Krishna's pastimes. And we discussed the purpose of Krishna's pastimes is his enjoyment. And his enjoyment is the stimulating the love of his pure devotees. So he appears in Vrindavan with pure devotees, and he engages in pastimes with the pure devotees. And then we get a chance to hear it because it's recorded in the Bhagavatam and described by our acharyas. So our love for Krishna can be stimulated in that way also. Though the child was death to demons, he manifested his sweetness at that time. She saw him on the bed while he hid his powers in front of her. An example is given. He was like a fire covered by ashes, that she attracted all the people of Braja is the action of the Leela Shakti. Sanatana Goswami's comment. Searching for children in Gokula, she saw the child who was performing childhood pastimes, who puts an end to demons, and who is sleeping on a bed. This excludes Balaram as the child being described, since he sometimes neglects the demons. Balaram was in Rohini's house. Because we discussed this yesterday, Rohini was one of Krishna's 18 wives. 18 wives. And when she became pregnant, Nanda sent Rohini during her pregnancy to be by the side of Nanda because Nanda's his good friend. He didn't trust Kamsa for good reason. This wicked man can do anything at any time, so send my wife, pregnant, to be in the care of Nanda. So she had a separate house, and Balaram was born of Rohini. But because there wasn't a father, because the father was Vasudeva, then Nanda acted like the father. And there's some very, very beautiful narrations where Mother Yashoda is talking to Balaram, little boy Balaram. And she says to little boy Balaram, your mother Rohini loves you, but I love you even more than your mother loves you. You're like my son. So I have now two sons. So she's with motherly affection, expressing not superlative to Rohini, but expressing her, and she felt motherly affection like her own son for Balaram. Balam indicates that Krishna was performing a bala or childhood pastime. Krishna caused the great power of Putana to be destroyed. This indicates his great power. An example is given. It was like fire hidden in charcoal. The charcoal can manifest the intense burning of fire. More commentary. Did Putana not become fearful? Because she has some intuitive sense this is not ordinary child. Why was such an evil person able to see the Lord? It was because of the manifestation of the Lord's power, Yadrich Chaya, right in the verse. This reason is also apparent later. She dressed up attractively as a cowherd woman, woman should be singular. So the women thought she was Lakshmi, thus they did not prevent her from approaching. Some years ago, there was an article on this pastime in Back to Godhead magazine, and here's some detail from that article. Putana's understanding is very significant. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is situated in everyone's heart. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that he gives one necessary intelligence. And he also causes one to forget. Putana was immediately aware that the child whom she was observing in the house of Nanda Maharaj was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. He was lying there as a small baby, but that does not mean that he was less powerful. The materialistic theory that God worship is anthropomorphic is not correct. No living being can become God by undergoing meditation or austerities. God is always God. You see, we're going along pretty slowly. I could do it differently. Maybe I can do it differently tomorrow. But I like hearing the acharyas giving their perspective on the pastime. Lord Sri Krishna, the all-pervading supersoul, lying on the bed, understood that Putana, a witch who was expert in killing small children, had come to kill him. Therefore, as if afraid, Krishna closed his eyes. Thus, Putana took upon her lap him who was to be her own annihilation, just as an unintelligent person places a sleeping snake on his lap, thinking the snake to be a rope. So Krishna's tricking her. Here it is shown an opportunity for the Lord's power of omniscience. Sarva Gyata Shakti. Sarva means all. Gyata means to know. He's omniscient, and he has a potency of omniscience, and he doesn't always exhibit it, but it's always there. And through that medium of that omniscient Shakti, he knew the whole program, exactly what her plan was, so that she would not become startled. He closed his eyes so she would carry on with her business. Though Krishna could understand Putana's identity, lay there with his eyes closed like a normal child. Then Putana placed him on her lap. He is called Ananta, which means without end, and Antakam, he who brings about the end. This was an opportunity for his destructive energy, Samhara Shakti, to operate. So it's a detail, but there's beauty in the detail. That is potencies and potencies and potencies. How many potencies does Krishna have? Unlimited. Parasha Shakti Vivadaiva Shruyate, according to the Upanishads. Unlimited. No limit to his potencies. So when different things are done by him or exhibited by him, it's his potencies. It's how it works is, according to the scriptures, he does desires. So the Ichha Shakti, or his desire Shakti, rules all the other Shaktis. He desires X, and this Shakti, that Shakti, or the other Shakti, or a combination, do X. And the energies of the Supreme move according to his will. Ichha Shakti. So he had a will. One is his omniscient Shakti, and the other is his destructive Shakti. And it's a Leela, because one of the principal purposes of Krishna's coming, we know from Bhagavad Gita, there are three principal reasons. Pritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya shaduskritam, dharma sangstapanartaya, samavami yuge yuge. So from time to time, from age to age, yuge yuge, he does those three things. And now it's time for the vinashaya shaduskritam, to finish Putana. So he's summoning by his ichha, by his will, by his desire, he's summoning his destructive energy, samhara shakti. That person who is without limit in all space and time, Putana held on her lap. Antakam and Ananta are also contradictory words to express this wonder, or another, Adbhuta rasa. Adbhuta means astonishment. So when one hears what Krishna is doing and how he's doing what he's doing, he's fully omniscient in this little 3-month-old baby body being placed on the lap of a witch. And he's smiling. And he's planning to destroy her, although her idea is to destroy him. As a foolish person holds a sleeping snake, thinking it a rope, so Putana foolishly held Krishna, thinking him an ordinary helpless child. Now, one of the names of Vishnu is Animisha. Animisha. Nimesha means blinking. And animesha means he doesn't blink. No, what's the word? Involuntary, it happens that eyes blink because the eye becomes dry. To moisten the eyelid closes and some moisture comes in. So you don't have dry eyes. We blink. But Lord Vishnu doesn't have that problem. Doesn't close his eyes. And Naimisharanya, we visited, we went to Haridwar for a yatra. And one of the places we visited was a very nice place, Naimisharanya. We went to Kurukshetra too, but Naimisharanya. Naimishe Nimisha Kshetra Rishaya Shonakadaya. That's the place where the painting is showing Sutta Goswami is speaking this Srimad Bhagavatam in a place where Lord Vishnu doesn't blink. In a holy place in the forest of Naimisharanya, great sages headed by the sage Shonaka assembled. Or, in this verse it says, Krishna closed his eyes. Now he doesn't close his eyes. Vishnu doesn't close his eyes, but Krishna closed his eyes. Why did Krishna close his eyes? Because he's animesha. It's a good question. It's a pastime. That's a good answer. This is a nice painting of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who's pictured on the left, instructing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 24-year-old sannyasi, beautiful sannyasi, to protect him. He volunteered. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is a greatly learned scholar. He said, you're just such a young, attractive, young sannyasi. How are you going to maintain your sannyas vows? If you like, I can help give you protection by instructing you in Vedanta Sutra. Now, Lord Chaitanya doesn't need instruction in Vedanta Sutra, but he gave Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya a chance to do a little service. So here he is for 7 full days. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya non-stop, he's a very learned person, explaining Vedanta Sutra to this young sannyasi, because that's what scholars like to do, like to protect young men by giving them training in Vedanta Sutra. Here's the description of this phrase, Nana Artakaya. Nana Artakaya, you see, it's directly one of the explanations of the Atmarama verse. What's the Atmarama verse? Some of you may know what the Atmarama verse. It's one of the verses in the Bhagavatam. And it's a celebrated verse. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya offered, I'd like to give you an explanation of the Atmarama verse. So he gave an explanation to Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya said, if you like, I can explain the Atmarama verse. So he gave such brilliant explanations that Sarvabhauma, the learned scholar Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, was astonished. His mouth dropped. I've never heard explanation like this before. Nana Arta Kaya. Varieties and imports. Srimad Bhagavatam is as great as Krishna, the Supreme Lord, and shelter of everything. In each and every verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, and in each and every syllable, there are various meanings. So, this is just a going down that path of the Lord closed his eyes, but he who doesn't close his eyes closed his eyes for pastime purposes, to reassure. So there's Putana getting ready to breastfeed Krishna, but along with the breastfeeding of Krishna, it was poison, virulent poison. Some say that Krishna closed his eyes because he didn't like to see the face of Putana, who had killed so many children and who had now come to kill him. Others say that something extraordinary was being dictated to her. And so he closed his eyes. And in order to give her assurance, Krishna closed his eyes so she would not be frightened. And yet others interpret in this way, Krishna appeared to kill the demons and to give protection to the devotees, Pritanaya Sadhunam. The first demon to be killed was a woman. So there's a whole long discussion about the first demon that Ram killed was a woman, the first demon that Krishna killed was a woman. What's going on? Is there some meaning behind this? There's some meaning behind this. Krishna was obliged to kill the demon Putana, and because the killing of a woman is forbidden according to Vedic Shastra, he could not help but close his eyes. One of the explanations. Another interpretation is that Krishna closed his eyes because he simply took Putana to be his nurse. Putana came to Krishna just to offer her breast for the Lord to suck. Krishna is so merciful that even though he knew Putana was there to kill him, he took her as his nurse or mother. And Jiva Goswami takes his pass at it. He closed his eyes in order to show fear of her by acting as a small child, in order to avoid seeing such an evil person, in order to avoid overpowering her with his glance, etc. More on why did he close his eyes. Similar explanations. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. To avoid making the violence become auspicious through the touch of his auspicious glance. The Lord would have felt embarrassed to kill the lady who had shown the mood of a mother. He wanted to avoid that embarrassment and to avoid shame of killing a woman acting as a mother, to avoid seeing the inauspiciousness of Putana's death. These are Sanskrit phrases which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur offers. Here's another Vaishnava Acharya named Hari Suri. This comes from Hari Parshad. Krishna was thinking, if I look at her with compassion, she'll become fully purified. And if I look at her with anger, she'll be burned to ashes. So better I don't look at her at all. Anyway, I look at her, the purpose of the Leela will not be fulfilled. So better if I close my eyes. According to Hari Suri's explanation, there's 15 different reasons. This is one of 15 reasons why Krishna closed his eyes. So, what are our acharyas doing? They're churning the topic, finding relish in the topic, because it's not that there's only one purpose that when Krishna does something. Even we do something, there may be multiple purposes. What to speak of the Supreme Lord. So the different interpretations aren't just, cleverness. These are realizations of something that is beyond our power to see and understand. And they're sharing what their realizations are. And it's not that the realizations, that's it. There's nothing more beyond their realization, because the Supreme Lord is unlimited. So it's nice to hear these different explanations. There's a commentator from the Nimbarka Sampradaya. Nimbarka Sampradaya is not within our Sampradaya, it's a different Sampradaya. And his explanation, Sri Sukha Stuti, it is indicated by the Lord here that even if one worships him with deceit, the Lord can still become controlled by such a person. In the pastime of Trinavarta, the Lord became so heavy that even Mother Yashoda wasn't able to pick him up or keep him on her lap. You know the pastime? She was with little baby Krishna, and all of a sudden, he became so heavy. She couldn't carry him anymore. She had to put him down because Trinavartati was coming, and Krishna wanted to go for a ride. He didn't want to disturb his mother, so he made himself very heavy. So she had to set him down. When the Lord wants, he can become so heavy that nobody's able to pick him up. What to speak of feeding him milk? Although the term used in this verse is ananta, nevertheless, he allowed himself to be picked up in the lap of Putana. This is the same commentary, Shuka Shuti, Sri Shuka Shuti. So Shuka means parrot, and Shuti means pure. So that's the name of the Acharya. Somebody may be very deceitful, but if that deceiver worships the Supreme Lord in the mood of a mother, the Lord becomes controlled by such a deceitful person also, at least for some time. This is indicated by the Lord here. Again, various realizations. Now back to the verse. We're drawing a conclusion for this evening's presentation. Putana Rakshasi's heart was fierce and cruel. Bhagavatam verse, text number 9. But she looked like a very affectionate mother. Thus, she resembled a sharp sword in a soft sheath. Although seeing her within the room, Yashoda and Rohini, overwhelmed by her beauty, did not stop her, but remained silent because she treated the child like a mother. And Krishna accepts that offering of Putana, the offering of a mother. And for that reason, amongst other reasons, that's why she got the position after her demise, as maidservant of Mother Yashoda in the spiritual world. Prabhupada's comment, Bhaktivedanta purports. Sometimes a beautiful woman is dangerous because everyone, being captivated by external beauty, is unable to understand what is in her mind. Those who are captivated by the beauty of the external energy are called Maya Mohita. Maya Mohita. Here, of course, the two mothers, Rohini and Yashoda, were not Maya Mohita, deluded by the external energy, but to develop the pastime of the Lord, they were captivated by Yogamaya. Such Mahamaya is the action of Yogamaya. So such action as Maya Moha. Tomorrow, during the Sunday program, we're going to be speaking something about Navaratri. Now, I was told on Thursday evening, I was at ASU, and we were invited, our club was invited, so I was a guest speaker at their event, a Navaratri event, South Asian Vedic Club, or Vedic Society, or whatever they are. But I was told there was 7 additional Navaratri festivals that same evening on campus. ASU. What to speak of, in the whole of Phoenix? What to speak of all over the place? And one of the main teachings that you'll hear tomorrow, when I spoke to ASU, is this Durga, or the personality who is at the center of Navaratri, has her spiritual counterpart. And that spiritual counterpart, just like Krishna is the source of all things, the absolute truth is the source of all things, his potency is also the source of all potencies. So Durga, that's worshipped in this plane, has her spiritual counterpart, Durga, in the spiritual realm. We discussed it a little bit this morning during the initiation ceremony. Who is, when Brahma has a consort, who's the consort of Brahma? Saraswati. No, Brahma is created, and that Saraswati is also created. But there's the original Saraswati, from whom Brahma, before there was creation, there wasn't a wife or a consort. The original Saraswati gave him a mantra. You with me? So Yogamaya is acting in Krishna's pastimes, and that Yogamaya can act to delude Putana by Maha Moha, the external energy. So she can very quickly seamlessly move from Yogamaya to Mahamaya. Piece of cake. It's just a reflection of who she is. So the reflection covered Putana by the arrangement of Yogamaya. And then the mother, and the Rohini and Yashoda, they didn't recognize because they were influenced by Yogamaya, because they're not deluded in that way. I find it fascinating. One potency can do many things, and whether it's this potency or that potency depends upon our regard for Krishna. If our consciousness is directed towards Krishna, we're under the care of the internal potency. If our consciousness is directed away from Krishna, we're under the care of the external potency. Because we're dependent. Dependent or dependent? We're dependent. And then dependent upon Krishna, that's the spiritual potency. So the spiritual potency will act in our lives depending upon who we're feeling dependent upon, or unto whom are we surrendered. If we're surrendered unto Krishna, it's the spiritual potency. We're protected. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashami ma sucha. You just take shelter of Krishna and you're under the care of the internal potency. No problema. Even when there's obstacles or duality in this world, this duality in the world doesn't stop when you become a Hare Krishna devotee or a pure devotee. The duality of this material world continues. It's day and night. There's pleasure and there's pain. There's happiness and there's distress. I did tell a little Prabhupada story. In Vrindavan, those of you that visit Vrindavan, in addition to seeing Krishna Balaram and Gaurnitai and Radha Shama Sundar, it's nice if you can go in the back area behind the temple room and visit Prabhupada's quarters. And so Prabhupada's quarters, the temple was set up very nicely, including a nice residential quarters for our founder Acharya. And he stayed in a back room, and when it came time for darshan time, there's a nice big space, black marble floor, and little place where Prabhupada would sit. Nice place. And, and address the audience, whatever was the occasion for the public darshan. So I remember one time when darshan was complete, Prabhupada got up from his desk and was walking towards his room, and his foot slipped because somebody spilled water. And he crashed. He caught himself there was like a fireplace. So he caught the main part of his weight by catching with his arms on the fireplace. But his foot twisted and immediately swelled. And because he's beyond duality, there's pain, it's part of duality. And he felt some pain because it's not like you become a pure devotee, you don't feel pain. He felt pain. But he didn't react to the pain. What he did, the two things that, because I was sitting right there, saw the whole thing, right in front of me where the water spill was. He chastised the devotee strongly who spilled the water because it was careless and needless, but it caused our spiritual master to fall and twist his ankle. And then the second thing is, immediately he called for the remedy, because he was he was a pharmacist by profession, so he knew what to do. And the next morning, I noticed, because I was sitting right in the front, his leg, normally he would sit with his legs folded underneath. One of his legs was distended downward. And the leg that was distended downward was the one that was twisted when he fell. And what he had done was he had leaves with string tied around the leaves and a poultice made of whatever he had requested to make, to reduce the swelling. He didn't take a, whatever it is, some allopathic medicine. He just put some herbs, made a poultice, held the herbs in place, not with a bandage, just with leaves and string. And that's our founder Acharya. He knew what to do in all circumstances. And he just tolerated whatever, the swelling, and scolded the person that spilled the water. He wasn't scolding because he was angry. He was scolding because of negligence, and you don't want ignorance to prevail in the life of someone you care about. So he scolded them. It's appropriate. Wasn't out of anger. A transcendental personality in all regards. So there's Putana. You see that the painting behind, that's this witch lady standing behind the curtain, and then on her lap, that's Krishna and the beautiful Putana. Putana played the part of a sweet deceiver who outwardly speaks pleasing words but harbors cruelty within her vicious heart. She exactly remembers a well covered with grass in order to trap a wild elephant. Her attractive form rivaled the jeweled sheath of a deadly sword. Although assuming the form of a desire creeper, Putana posed as a poisonous plant. Poetry, poetry, poetry. Images to help us feel and get a sense of what's going on. So again, why did they let her in? Now, why did they didn't stop her? This verse answers this question. Putana acted like a very attentive mother. Externally, she was gentle, but inwardly, she was cruel. Putana resembled a sharp sword concealed in a soft leather sheath. Overwhelmed by Putana's influence, Yashoda and Rohini thought that perhaps Ambika, Indrani, or Lakshmi of the celestial regions had come to feed Krishna out of motherly love. Thus, they passively watched her pick up the child. So there she is on the right, picking up the child, and there are the two mothers on the left. Sanatana Goswami writes, they saw her in the room near the child, Antara, as the best of women, though she had a cruel heart and had crooked activities, Vama Cheshtatam. Though they saw her, they just stood there. They did not stop her because they were bewildered by her beauty, since she was affectionate like a mother, or they were overcome by the Lord's power, since he wanted to suck Putana's life air. Otherwise, they would have prevented her, and she would not have been able to put Krishna on her lap. Though cruel-hearted, she had charming actions like a mother. She did not seem wicked. Evil persons cannot suddenly enter others' houses. They had faith that she was a good woman. Thus, they did not do anything. Overpowered by her beauty and charm, she was capable of doing her actions like a knife in a sheath. We're getting a very clear picture of what leads up to. For where all this is going is Krishna accepts that service of mother, and along with sucking her breast, he sucked out her life air. And when he sucked out her life air, she screamed. And when her life air was taken out, she assumed the normal Rakshasi body instead of the beautiful goddess of fortune-looking body. And her body spread out over miles, humongous body. And Krishna was playing on her breast, just like having fun. And then when they saw little Krishna, 3-month-old little Krishna on this mile-long body climbing around on her body, they panicked. And around this time is when Nanda Maharaj came back. And he saw this huge body lying in the field and everyone screaming and what's going on? And he's thinking, Nanda was thinking, Vasudeva is a mystic. He somehow knew before I even got here, and he warned me, protect your son, danger is going to come. So he's this mystical personality. And he took charge. We'll hear some more as we go forward. They carefully took Krishna off the chest of Putana, and they did what you do in village life. They did some rituals to take away the bad omens. And then they began feeding him because that's what little babies like. They feel comforted. And so life resumed. Then they had this giant body. And what are they going to do with this giant body? They chopped up the giant body to burn the body. But when they burned the body, it smelled like fragrant sandalwood. There was burning bodies don't smell like that. Bad smell. But this was a good smell. So they were puzzled. How come? Because she'd been touched by Krishna. So even her body had been transformed. Okay, a little bit more. At that time, Brajeshwari Yashoda thought, am I the mother, or is this woman the mother of my child? Fearlessly, Putana picked up baby Krishna and cuddled him in her lap. The compassionate Lord, who was absolute knowledge personified, acted unaware of the situation. Yashoda and Rohini watched attentively as Putana expressed motherly affection toward Krishna by pressing her poison-covered nipple into his mouth. His soft, copper-colored lips resembled drinking cups made of the petals of a cluster of banduka flowers. Expert at performing pastimes, Krishna skillfully sucked out both Putana's milk and her very life, which left her helpless and stupefied. And this is the last verse. On that very spot, the fiercely dangerous Rakshasi took Krishna on her lap and pushed her breast into her mouth. The nipple of her breast was smeared with a dangerous, immediately effective poison. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, became very angry at her, took hold of her breast, squeezed it very hard with both hands. Now, little hands of a 3-month-old child, how big is that? Tiny. Squeezed very hard with both hands and sucked out both the poison and her life. So various paintings illustrating the pastime. Lord Krishna was not angry at Putana for his own sake. Rather, he was angry because Rakshasi had killed so many children in Brajabhumi. Therefore, he decided that she should be punished by having to forfeit her life. He held her breast. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. He held her breast so tightly with his 2 hands that she could not pull him away. Filled with anger that she was going to kill all the children of Braja by offering her breast to them, his Shakti of destruction, we read this already, Samharana Shakti, sucked out her impure life. He did not personally do this, though we say a man cuts down a tree. Actually, it's the axe held by the man that cuts down the tree. Similarly, it is stated that Krishna sucked out her life hairs, though actually it was his Samharana Shakti that performed all the work. It's a nice distinction. When we speak of Krishna's pastimes, we say this and this and this happened, and then the next thing happened, and so forth. And more precisely, he's doing nothing, but his potencies are doing everything. And there's a philosophical mystery for some persons. I'm the doer, but I'm yet the non-doer. Behold my mystic opulence. Right? From Bhagavad Gita. I'm within everything and outside of all this Upanishadic double talk. I'm inside of everything, but outside of everything. It's a description. There's the source of the potencies, and there's the potency. So he alone does nothing, but his potencies do everything. So he does through the agency of his potencies, and so sometimes it's described like that. Krishna's anger was also temporary and then transformed into the greatest mercy. This indicates Krishna is called Bhagavan, filled with qualities like compassion, which never leave him. He was absorbed in his infant pastimes. His Shakti acted on his behalf. All his Shaktis performed appropriately since they were waiting for opportunities to serve, while he was absorbed in his infant mood. It's a very nice understanding. As it's being presented here in detail in the first pastime, the first demon that's being killed, and we can understand in subsequent, all the details may not be elaborated like this. But when Krishna performs pastimes, it's to be understood. In one sense, he's doing nothing, and his potencies are doing everything, whatever that is that he's doing. And through those potencies, the pastime is being enacted, and also his Aishvarya is always present. The opulence of Krishna will go through something from yesterday, we'll repeat it again. The pastimes of Krishna are sweet, that's Madhurya. Madhu means honey. Madhurya is honey-like. So his childhood pastimes in Vrindavan are honey-like. But the honey-like aspect of his pastimes is so sweet that it conceals or overshadows or supersedes his opulences, but his opulences are present. It's like lifting of Govardhan Hill or what's going on here. He's doing all these amazing, just a little baby. He's doing all these amazing things through the agency of his potencies. His omniscience doesn't stop. Nothing stops. It's just a childhood pastime, facilitating Mother Yashoda to have her maternal affection increased by cuddling her little baby. Mothers like to do that. And Mother Yashoda liked to do that. So Krishna is reciprocating with her motherly affection. But he is raso vaisahi, he's the source of all rasas. So she's experiencing the happiness that she's experiencing because Krishna's getting happiness from expanding his potencies in relationship with her. And in this way, in that way, and the other way, because it's not only Mother Yashoda, it's all the Vrajbasis. And then there's Putana, that's, a big player in this pastime, in his childhood pastimes. We'll see the paintings are fantastic. Her body's miles long. When her life air was extracted, the beauty was gone, and the life air was gone, and this gigantic body lying in a field, crushing the trees and pasturing ground, and you can't just leave this giant body just lying there to rot. They had to deal with it. They burned it. They got axes and started chopping her body parts into little pieces, threw it in the fire. Pretty amazing. Sridhar Swami says that Krishna understood that this poison was not suitable for food. Poison cannot kill a person filled already with poison, namely Putana. Therefore, he thought, I will mix her life airs with mine in order that they become purified by association. So there's Putana screaming, there's Krishna taking her breast. He drank as if angry, since in drinking her life air, he was most merciful to her. This becomes clear. So now a little bit, and I'm going to end. This is Hari Suri's commentary. He has many commentaries. This is Hari Parshad Prabhu's translation. According to Dharma Shastra, she was fit to be killed. Therefore, the Lord is going to kill her. The Lord need not deliver her from birth and death, but still the Lord is going to deliver her from birth and death. What's the reason? A person may be traversing on all the incorrect paths in life, or may be completely toxic in behavior, but if that person holds me close to the heart even once, then I will definitely liberate them. This is the clear message from the pastime of Putana. I'm going to end here. There's a few more slides, but that's okay. What happens, we know what happens to Putana after she was killed, because I said yesterday, no, they didn't say yesterday. After class yesterday, there was a question. Our host wanted to know what was the destination of Kamsa when Kamsa was killed. So it led to it led to some further discussion. So I sent some research that I had done over the past couple of years with similar questions. In short, demons killed by Krishna get liberation. Those who are killed by other forms of the Lord may not get liberation, like Kamsa. Kamsa was killed by Krishna, so he got liberation. But there was an assumption that he got Sayuja Mukti, because in many cases, you'll see in the documents that were circulated, you're used to stuff like that. I'm a sannyasi and I'm not used to it, so pardon my response. Screaming children and classes don't go well together. The commentators explain that Ravana and Kumbhakarna, Hiranyakashipu and Shishupal, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, they didn't achieve liberation, but they became freed from the sins that they had committed during that life. So they went to another place, kind of like a stopover place, an intermediate place. And there's different options that are provided by our acharyas. But they didn't go to Sayuja, and they didn't stay in this realm. They went to some intermediate realm until their next appearance and their next appearance. And then when Krishna killed Shishupal and Dantavakra, they returned back to Jai and Vijay position, and the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha. So they were doing some service for Krishna. But Kamsa didn't achieve Sayuja, but he achieved one of the other 4 types of liberation in the spiritual realm. But, how is that? Because Krishna is the one that killed him. And Krishna has that power that other forms, the Vishnu avatars, don't have. He has this very, very, very special capacity to restore liberation to persons even who are in inimical position. So I hope you have some nice time going through all those documents. There's just commentaries by our acharyas responding to similar questions. So let's see if there's some discussion. It's 9:00. Any comments or questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for coming here and telling all these stories. I appreciate it. So a couple of slides before, you were talking about how Krishna had to close his eyes because one, if Krishna looked at Putana with compassion, she would be purified. But if Krishna looked at Putana with anger,
Burn.
If Krishna looked... Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, was Putana really that ugly that she managed to make the Supreme Personality of Godhead close his eyes? It was just something funny that I thought.
Well, keep it simple, because it's simple. So it's a pastime. Now, he doesn't have to do anything. But if he does something, there's a purpose behind his doing something. And there may be multiple, 15 different purposes in doing something. So our acharyas are giving us some of those purposes. And it's not if this is it, then that can't be it. And if that's it, then another thing can't be it. There can be multiple purposes simultaneously. So the transcendental Lord doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to close his eyes, doesn't have to leave them open, doesn't have to do anything.
Thank you.
That's just his pastime. He's enjoying his pastime. And part of the pastime is the coming attractions. That is, she in addition to giving her breast to poison Krishna, Krishna is going to liberate her by drawing out not only the milk from her breast, but her life air, and then she's going to go to the spiritual world. So that's part of the pastime, because she came as mother. Krishna's accepting that little bit of service, that coming as a mother kind of a mood, and accepts it. And then the rest of the Leela, the Adbhuta, the astonishment that everyone in Vrindavan has. Oh, look at this. And, because their concern is for little Krishna. They're concerned about themselves like they're concerned about Krishna. Krishna's in danger. Oh, no. So he's stimulating that ecstatic emotion in them by the pastime, etc. So there's multiple purposes for each thing. And our acharyas are, as I mentioned, they're giving us their realizations, or some portion of the sum total of all the possible arrangements for Krishna to do what Krishna does. And going back, he came to deliver this earth planet from being overburdened with demoniac persons. And Putana is one. He just has a very creative way of dealing with her. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Just so much appreciation just to listen to all the details that our acharyas are going into.
Yeah.
And I'm also wondering, if they could describe so much in detail about Putana, which is supposed to be the negative character, but so much details. So just so much appreciation for how they could do that. And all of these realizations also, how they are getting from different acharyas, how they interpret, and everything is just so mind-boggling. It really can't even conceive how they are getting all these realizations. So it is beautiful.
A comment is, each of these personalities that were referred to, they're not it's not just scholarship. They know this Sanskrit word and that Sanskrit word. They put the words together and they come up with different possible meanings derived from the Sanskrit meanings, impossible Sanskrit meanings. That's scholarship. It's not coming from scholarship. I mean, they're scholarly, but it's not arising from their scholarship. It's arising from their realization. That the realization means Krishna's in their heart, and they're reading these pastimes of Krishna or in relation to Krishna, and something just awakens in their heart, and they write it. It's not from the mind, it's not from their intellect. It's being revealed to them. No, that I'm saying that with faith, but there's basis for that faith. These are personalities that aren't fiction writers. There are fiction writers. They take the scripture and they fabricate something that's novel and interesting and something. But that's not what our acharyas do. I'm just emphasizing Super Soul is giving them realizations, and there's no limit to the unlimited. So he can reveal many things at different times to different persons, their orientation of heart, and just sharing a little something. there was one home program, and the parent of the child, they had the child sit right towards the front. And normally that's not what parents do. The parents take the child and they do stuff with their children, where the children are busy doing something, it kind of off in the back part of the area. But this particular situation, little child had puzzle pieces. And the whole class, the child was absorbed in figuring out. They had like a picture, and then they had little puzzle pieces, and they were to build the picture with the puzzle pieces. So they were holding the puzzle piece up to the picture, seeing, there's this color and that color, and then putting the puzzle piece together. And when they're done, the picture over here was what's the puzzle parts went like over here. So as I was watching this, giving the class, but it was obvious because it was kind of in plain vision, I understood a little bit what they were doing is a little bit like what we do. There's this big picture of Krishna's pastimes. And then there's this piece, and then there's that piece, and how does this piece fit together with that piece? And when you're done, you got the big picture of Krishna's pastime. So our acharyas are just giving us little pieces of the big picture. And we may or may not understand how this puzzle piece fits together with that puzzle piece fits together. But as one becomes, each of us become a little familiar with not only the template of the pastime, but the details, the puzzle pieces of our acharyas, and then it can give us like the bigger picture of what this pastime is all about. As simple as a little puzzle piece that we don't have necessarily the image of what the puzzle pieces, when they're all together, what it's going to look like. And when the child got stuck, they looked up at their father, and the father pointed to where in the big picture the puzzle piece might go, and the child would go, yes, and they tried it over there, and sure enough, it fit. So someone is guiding someone to see how all these little pieces of the puzzle fit together. So teachers can assist one taking the explanations of our acharyas to get, in addition to the template, the big picture of Krishna's pastimes. This part, that part, the other part, and how it all fits together. A little appreciation. And right away, when hearing all this, it may not be so clear. And I'll be honest with you. There's as I was reading, because I'm very familiar with the pastimes, as I was reading, I was thinking, I don't know, the audience is going to be a little bored with all this detail. But I went ahead anyways because there's a reason for it. The reason for it is the big picture. The fullness of Krishna's pastimes has a lot of sweetness in it. And we may not be able to discover the sweetness. We may become familiar enough with the pastime so we can remember the pastime, but then not get the fullness of the big picture of Krishna's pastimes and all of what's going on while he's doing these very basic things. So, more of the same. We continue the Putana story. Anything else? Yes.
Regarding this, and Krishna was so angry. So those babies are the eternal associate of Krishna, or those are like normal living entities who are suffering their previous sins?
Which ones?
The babies who
The
got
ones that were
killed before
killed?
Krishna. Yeah.
Specifically. There's an earlier commentary that says, Jiva Goswami, if I recall correctly, says the children that were killed were associates of Kamsa. they're connected somehow to Kamsa. It doesn't give the detail, but it's not the eternal associates of Brijbasis were killed by Putana. Now, killing of children from any category is bad. Putana is bad, but the specific question, were they Brijbasis? No. Not eternal associates of Krishna being killed by Putana. But those connected with Kamsa, it doesn't give the detail of in what way they were connected with Kamsa, but connected with Kamsa, those are the ones that were killed. Okay? Something else?
Hare Krishna, earlier you mentioned that the Vajrasis chopped up Putana and to burn her. But like, what did they do with all the ashes after they burned her?
You speak very fast.
Oh, sorry.
Can you do just slowly? Just be kind.
After the Vajrasis chopped up Putana
Yeah.
and burned her,
Yes.
what did they do with her ashes?
Oh, it doesn't say. It doesn't say. They could have buried the ashes. They could have put the ashes in the river. They could have. It doesn't say. It doesn't say.
Thank you.
Nice question. Anything else? Yes? No? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.